Now, as you can see from this map, a lot of ships are still passing through the Red Sea. The white bit is the Red Sea. Reuters says some companies are now turning off vessel transponders or deploying private armed guards on board their vessels and making it publicly known that they are there. Others are diverting shipping away from the Red Sea entirely. Hapag-Lloyd is one of the world's largest shipping firms and is now rerouting vessels around the Cape of Good Hope. But if you look at the map of where that goes, instead of going up through the Red Sea, you're now going a much, much, much longer way round. The CEO is Rolf Habben Jansen, who joins me now. Sir, thank you. First of all, I mean, I'm just looking at where your ships are and how you're negotiating that. To go via the Cape of Good Hope is a considerably longer, more costly way.
Yeah, that is correct. It depends, of course, a little bit where they have to go. Because if they come directly from Asia and have to go to the US on the East Coast, for example, it's about a week to 10 days extra. The same goes for North Continent Europe, but of course, especially if ships have to go to the Med or to Turkey, for example, we talk about a huge detour.
What is it you need from this multinational force before you would be prepared to transnavigate the Red Sea again?
That's a difficult question, also not so easy to answer. I think, first of all, I think we're really happy that this coalition seems to be coming together because that's definitely a step in the right direction. I think, as was also said by the previous speaker, that alone, however, is not enough. I think if we look at what happened over the last couple of weeks, the number of attacks that there have been on commercial vessels is really unacceptable. I mean, we were hit on Friday last week and then decided also to pause passages. And for now, we have decided to indeed reroute across Africa.
When you say you were hit last week, these are drones and sort of fairly unsophisticated missiles. How much damage can they do to a ship?
I mean, I'm certainly not an expert on that, but I know that in our case, a couple of containers exploded, many were damaged, and we had a fire on board that took actually quite a few hours to extinguish. And we also were lucky because if it would have been 3 or 4 bays further into the back, there were some hazardous chemicals there, and then the effect would have been much more severe.
So to those of us who might be sitting there thinking, oh, for goodness sake, you know, I mean, we look on the map, there's Yemen, there's the water, and it's a long way. The chances of them being hit by a drone, you're telling me that this is not only real, it's serious, and it's potentially fatal.
It is potentially dangerous. I mean, we also have seen missiles that have been shot at ships. And of course, if you look at these very large ships, a little bit dependent on where they get hit, I mean, you could get very serious damage to the ships. And I mean, if a drone, for example, would attack places where the crew would sit, I mean, people are really in danger. So, I mean, this is not a small thing. And that's also why we will maintain safety first for our crews. And that's why we take the decisions that we do.
Yeah, so it's almost back to my first question. What would you like the authorities to do? What will give you that element of safety that you can continue? Or maybe there's nothing at the moment.
I mean, in reality, there's a lot of discussions going on between various parties on what can and what cannot be done. Hopefully, those discussions will result in some kind of common understanding of what needs to be done. And then we need to make sure that we put that in place. But it's a very complex problem, also because we don't only talk about container ships, but we talk also about bulk carriers, tankers, and what have you. And it's a large number of ships that normally pass through there every day.
So if we turn to the other side of that, the economic equation, and I think we all learned more about supply chain economics than we ever wished to in the post-pandemic period. If you start to have to add days, if not weeks, to trips, that screws up supply chains, doesn't it?
It does, but also there, I mean, it depends a little bit where it has to go. Because I would still argue that for ships that have to go to North Europe or to US East Coast, that the impact with 7 to 10 days in most cases will be manageable. But I think above all, this creates a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we've seen a huge surge of bookings over the last week, because everybody now tries to get his stuff on board of all of the ships that are still leaving Asia, for example. And of course, when everybody panics, then things tend to get difficult, and that's why I think it's important to stay calm. Yeah.
And are you seeing, well, I guess the answer is yes, but are you seeing a rise in freight rates?
We do, but in fairness, if you look at the last 4 to 6 weeks, we already had a quite balanced situation, as we as Hapag have pointed out already a number of times several weeks ago. So we have seen rates already creeping up a bit, and of course we are also running up to Chinese New Year, where you normally see a seasonal peak anyway. Yeah, so it's a little bit a number of things coming together, and then of course we also still have the situation in the Panama Canal, which is also restricted.
I'm grateful to you, sir. Let's talk more next week when we get a better idea of exactly where this is going, and you can hopefully guide us. I'm grateful for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.